Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the BAC Story. We're done with the holidays, which are fantastic. I think if I turned on the TV and saw a Christmas Story playing one more time, I can already recite it, but now I'm reciting it in my sleep. So the holidays were good, tougher than I expected, but got through it. And I think everyone survived. I think this is good. So very excited about the guest tonight. I'm gonna everyone complains about my music and I'm tired of it. But this one, I'm maybe gonna try a theme music du jour. Um, it maybe tie it to the guest. So I think this is fitting for my guest tonight. And I'm just gonna bring her into the Does this not fit? You are the law.
I am not the law.
Do you have flashing red and blue lights on your car?
I do not. I am not a police officer. I don't play one on TV.
I am thrilled. This is a very good friend of mine who one of my great friends that I've never met. Katharine Pope, and Kat, I'm thrilled to have you. What's that?
I am not a police officer.
No, but I want to hear your story's interesting because you are considered the first responders in that group, which we've talked about trauma. I've learned a lot about it dealing with some of the guests, and I know you've been involved in some of this, but I didn't understand what trauma was. And the first responders hearing some of yours. So tell me what you do first off, and then I'll start firing some questions at you.
I actually call myself a last responder because we come on scene after all the chaos is done and the crime scene or the event needs to be kind of cleaned up and taken care of. So I am a forensic death investigator. I went to school. I have my master's degree in forensic anthropology. So I study human skeletal variation and I apply that to a forensic context. So, if there's a skeleton found in the woods, I can help determine age, sex, ancestry, height. And I work full time with the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. So I'm a cold case investigator and I help law enforcement agencies all around the country with their cold cases.
So I just have to ask, where in life, what happened that when other people decided to be a fireman, a doctor, these things that you said, dead bodies. I don't know. That's my, were you a Dungeons and Dragons person growing up? I don't know where did that come from?
Yeah, I grew up with a father who was a paramedic firefighter and a mom who was an ER nurse. So there was no taboo topic at the dinner table. We talked about a lot of stuff. And I used to go with my dad down to DC and just walk around the city. And I used to love just hanging out at the ER. I mean, doesn't every teenager like to hang out at the ER?
So I'll give away my age here, but I guess if I should call you Quincy. Isn't that with Jack Klugman? He was the forensic. You don't even know. Thank you so much for making me feel old. Jack Klugman of The Odd Couple, when all the Columbo and all those shows were out. Oh, that's great. You know what? The evening's over.
And good night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jeff's officially old. Quincy was a great show, but he was the crime fighter. He was the guy that was given a bone because he was a forensic guy, and he ended up solving the murder. And that was actually a pretty good show. Anyways, so
to better age me, I was just getting interested in forensic science when the JonBenet Ramsey case happened. So
do you have inside dirt? Was it the dad? Y'all want to know?
It's the brother, right? Is that who everybody?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was the dad that was the latest. So was that a spark for you?
Yeah, my mom took me to an FBI agent who worked the case, came and was like giving a lecture tour. So I did go and like listen, and I thought that was very interesting. It's just this whole question about how death is taboo and how we all have these, crazy abnormal experiences in life. They may not necessarily revolve around death, but it's like this abnormal kind of psychology that every person, every relationship has to their experience, and how that affects you going forward in life was really a spark for me. So I was a psych major in college, and then my junior year, I took a forensic anthropology class, and I was just like absolutely hooked. And Kathy Reichs was big then. She's the author of now TV show Bones. So I read a lot of those books back then, and I
How
just
many
really did
times
it.
have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
I absolutely love Silence of
Yeah.
the Lambs.
Okay. See, I can a little. So I got to ask you though, because it is exciting, and I love that you chased your dreams. That's something I want to tell kids, you can be happy doing anything. You can make money but find what your passion is and chase it. But you're on a show that deals with people that have issues with alcohol. So I'm guessing there was a dark side to what you're what you see, what your world is.
Yeah. It's so funny because so I don't dig crime scene shows. I don't like true crime. I have a couple of shows and a couple of books that I think are great, but on the whole, I think that the sensationalization of forensic science has really led to a weird, icky, dark place for a lot of people that have been exposed to violence and crime. But then also on the practitioner side, people who actually do this work always get this like, wow, that must be so cool. And you must really blah, 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 oh, that's so neat. I wish I could do that. And it puts me in a weird, awkward position where when I did start to have bad feelings about my job, when I started to feel like, oh, that was a hard case, or I'm really exhausted, I'm working too much, the negative things that come along with really anybody's job. But because I handle decedents and family members, and tough crime scenes, cases that might go to the media or to court, that on top of it really made me start to like question, like, well, gosh, what did I sign up for? And well, this whole thing that's so popular and cool, like, I don't think it's that cool. I think it's kind of hard and sad sometimes. And so that led me down a road of questioning my own emotions and questioning my mindset and always kind of second guessing myself.
Do you attribute it to, I mean, I don't know how long you've even been sober, what your give us the nutshell real quick on that. But I also did your did the emotions and what you faced having to deal with family. You obviously very tough scenarios you had to face. Did that take you down this path? But give us the quick little story of what your path was or is.
I mean, it's
Hopefully was.
like most people. I drank in college. Forensic anthropologists are notorious partiers. So we always, we're the life of the American Academy of Forensic Science conferences. We always have the most fun. But I think when I started using it as a crutch for not processing emotions, that's when it really took a turn to not being fun anymore. So my story is I was a death investigator. I have been a death investigator for 15 years. And we moved a lot. I was getting my degree. My husband was getting his PhD. We were in New York City. And then we moved down to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So I had worked in medical examiners as a death investigator for a while until we moved to where I live now. And that's when I started having kids and really like getting comfortable in my community. So because I was so transient, I never really felt like a relationship or a part of the community that I was serving. And so what I mean by that is when I went to handle decedents in the places that I lived prior to where I live currently, I didn't feel as bad. I didn't feel as emotionally connected to the decedents and their families. And I hope this doesn't sound terrible, but it wasn't until I lived where I am now that I really started to feel, and I became a parent too. It's like, oh, this could be me, or this could be
Do you
my
think that was
family.
a self-protection though?
Yeah, and, people don't it's not professional to cry on scene with families or anything like that, and we're never trained how to talk to families who are experiencing the worst day of their life, and this is just our, like, Tuesday, you know? We frequently.
The only reason I'm asking is because alcohol for me allowed me to avoid facing life.
Mhm.
Um, and that's one of the things being having no alcohol is as many blessings and fantastic things that it's given me. It also is somewhat throws you into the fire of, well,
Ew,
boy,
feelings.
because you're going to now have to face all this stuff. So, alcohol was my way of getting away with it. And that's getting away from facing that stuff. And I'm just wondering if shutting off your emotions was one way, and did that spill over into then drinking as well?
For sure. Yeah, it was just a way to to decompress after a long day, to transition. I had no skills in transitioning from like investigator Pope to like mommy when I came home. And I was like, I just carried a baby that looked like when this baby died. And now I have to go and nurse my child that's the same size. Like, how do I mentally change identities? So, long story short, I ended up being offered this position with the federal government where I started working from home. And it was right before I was working 80 hours a week. We work holidays, overnights, weekends. Death doesn't work 9 to 5.
Right.
So I was very burned out at the end of my scene investigation career. And I got offered a position with the federal government working on cold cases full time. And at that time, I had spoke to my doctor, like, I think I'm drinking too much. I think I need some help. And she gave me a pamphlet for AA and put me on antidepressants. And you know me, I am not a depressed person. I'm high anxiety, but she never even asked me questions, or, it wasn't a psychologist, it was my primary care doctor. So, number one, I wasn't depressed. I'm not going to take antidepressants. And number two, as a public figure, as someone in the community that's working in like an authoritative role, I certainly wasn't going to start going to AA meetings.
Mhm.
And I've never been to them. I understand that my view of them is a stereotype and it's inaccurate. I've since met a lot of police officers who have become sober through AA, and it sounds like an amazing community. But at the time, I was so ashamed and embarrassed that I had become like one of my victims. One of the many people I had to take care of because they drank too much and ran off the road, or committed suicide, or you know drank themselves to death. And so I was a mess. I went to my doctor. My doctor didn't help me. So I figured, and she was like, well, the other option you have too is to change jobs. So I got this amazing experience to work from home and work 9 to 5 and be with my family. And it was a raise, it was stable. So I expected my drinking problems to just evaporate. And, you and I know both, like, it's an addictive substance. It doesn't just go away because you've changed your experience. So that led me to, this was right before COVID, right around COVID time. I was still drinking heavily, not as much for like trauma related issues, but just because it was a habit. And then COVID happened, and all my friends, I had abandoned my friends, and they have to start going out onto these COVID scenes where they're worried about their own health and safety. And they're short staffed, and they have way more cases. What a normal day is 5 decedents goes up to 35. And it's just coming and coming and coming. So I started having survivor's guilt on top of the burnout and the, PTSD. So it wasn't until July of 2020 that I found Annie Grace's live alcohol experiment, and it just blew my mind. I didn't become sober immediately. I didn't spend that whole 30 days alcohol free.
What were the key things that did it for you, that made it for her program?
The very first month that I, tried to take a 30-day break was just information. Like, I had no idea that alcohol was, I guess I knew alcohol was addictive, but I didn't know why. I didn't know that the euphoric the euphoric feeling lasts for 20 minutes for like a 2-hour downward spiral. And what's the benefits of that? It's not worth it at all. And I was just chasing, like at the end there, I was just chasing that 20 minutes. All I wanted was that warm feeling in my belly and that blissful nothingness. And once I recognized, like, oh, that's not worth the 3 days of shame spiral and, the horrible stomach cramps and the sleeplessness. I mean, at the end, too, I would wake up with heart palpitations and it was just really bad at the end. I never hit a traditional rock bottom like people said, but it was it was a really dark, sad, lonely place in my brain, which constantly was filled with chatter about how stupid I was and how, like, you're so smart and you're so wonderful at all these things. Why can't you stop drinking for
It's
one
interesting
day?
because for me, I looked at alcohol and I judged it based on those 20 minutes. Now I would have said 2 hours, but regardless, I gave the good stuff I gave to alcohol. All the rest of the stuff, I put that blame on me. That
Yeah,
I was It's my fault that I wasn't sleeping right. If I had done my work better, then I wouldn't wake up
worrying
feeling
about it.
shaky and all these different things. So I didn't. I separated. I gave alcohol the credit for the good, but I didn't. I cut it a break, and I put the negative that I was doing something wrong. So I was not. It wasn't alcohol's fault. It wasn't until I shined a light on all of alcohol and said, "No, no, no. If you're going to take credit for the buzz, you're going to take credit for all the crap that comes along with it."
Yeah,
Because I can't pull just I can't pull just the buzz out of that bottle of beer.
and there's an image in This Naked Mind, the book, where it's like you come home from a hard day and you're at, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at like a 6. And have that first cocktail and you go up to an 8. And then when the blood alcohol level starts to decrease, you go down to like a 5. And then you're like, "Oh, no biggie, I'll have another drink." And you go up to like a 6. So you're just at the same status that you were when you got home from work from a hard day. But then it bumps you down to like a -2. And you can never get back up to that just status quo. That image was so strong for me of like, this thing isn't working. And if I keep trying to make it work, it's just like you can't choose what you're numbing anymore. It was just all, I wasn't laughing, I wasn't crying, I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad. I was just like drunk.
Mhm.
And I
It's
wasn't even, it wasn't at that point, it wasn't even drunk anymore. It was just like, I guess I was just drinking.
I it, it's I remember, I used to I didn't want to get drunk. I wanted to catch that magical buzz and
Mhm.
maintain that the whole time. And what I found is that I never caught it again.
Mhm.
I was always chasing it, and then I was just a mess. It was so the I don't know. I mean, it wasn't for lack of trying. But the thing with alcohol is you've got the desire for the relief. Then you've got the negative needing to chase it back. Then you got the chemical dependency because it is an addictive side. I mean, it's not just a double-edged sword. There's about 15 sides to that thing that all do the negative damage.
Ugh.
It's a wicked,
I
wicked.
can feel
But
myself when I
my thing
tell
was
that.
shining the light and
Yeah.
seeing, this is really what you're getting out of this thing.
I can like feel myself going, not going back to that place, but just like feeling the anxiety thinking about being back there and how thankful I am not to be there. I spend a lot of time coaching other public servants and first responders, um, kind of how to find other tools to handle tough days or like, transitioning from work and life, as parents and in relationships. But anyway, it's remembering all these good feelings that I have now. And sure, it's not all easy. Like I have to feel, I have to feel emotions now. I don't get to numb them. But what I like to say is like now I don't have to numb them out. I get to feel it. I get to feel them. And that means like I have really big belly laughs now with my kids. Um, my daughter's 11, so she's starting to have like really big feelings. So I get to like I see her get upset and I can be upset with her. Um, that is a gift that I just cannot tell people enough. It's like we spent so much time numbing out hard stuff that we forgot how beautiful hard stuff really feels.
Okay, but here's my problem is um alcohol is the evil, my life sucks because of alcohol. I take away alcohol, guess what? I The job still uh stinks. The traffic still stinks. The bills keep coming up. All the stuff that I was hoping would magically disappear when I took away alcohol. That stuff kept coming.
Still there.
So how did you? Now I'm not dealing with, and what's the word? I've never said decedents. I've never said that word. That's actually, I'm 58, and that's the first time I've ever said that word, decedents.
Congratulations.
It sounds professional, but so how do you handle this now that you don't have alcohol to numb it away? And the reason I'm asking, because I don't deal in your world, but I still have my crap. And
Yeah.
you know what? It doesn't match on paper what you have to see, but mine still sucks.
Still sucks.
And it may be on the newsworthy scale way down here compared to what you're doing, but in my world, it sucks. So
Yeah.
how do you, if you take away the one thing that worked for so long, because that's what I use, how do you do it? Where did you find the answer to replace that? And the miracle magical question, because let's write a book. We're gazillionaires. What is the replacement? Does it come in
It
pills?
wasn't one replacement, it was a couple of things. And the hugest, biggest, most awesomest thing that helped me was, well, I looked for a community and I couldn't find it because people, like I said, in my role, do not want to admit that they're like an other, like our victims. And so I created it. I was like, I'm going to stand on my soapboxes. Many first responders are taking their own lives right now, and they're completing suicide at really super high rates. So I have created a big community where it's a safe space, and I'm shouting on the rooftops my story so that other people will feel comfortable telling their story. And it's happening. People will come to me. I share on LinkedIn, I share on Instagram. I'm okay. I'm comfortable saying like I don't drink anymore, and this is why. And people will come to me privately and send me messages. Oh, I've been alcohol free for 10 years, 20 years. I'm trying to get alcohol free, but I'm having a really hard time. And your story is helping me do that. So saying out loud to other people what was going on in my mind was huge. I wasn't even talking to my husband about what was happening because I didn't want to be like, there was this dead guy and his head was hanging off, like I didn't want to gross him out. He's a teacher, for God's sakes. He doesn't want to hear that stuff. But so now when I have a hard case that's really sad, I talk to my doctor. I talk to the medical examiner. I talk to other death investigators. I know that other people are sad when they hear about, dead kids. I know that. And before I was like, nobody else is sad. I'm just being a big pansy. I should just go home and drink a bottle of wine. That'll show me, me and my wimpy feelings. I'm just this big coward.
What
So I
what
think
what is the difference? And I'm assuming it's tomorrow morning. What is the difference of if you went home tonight and you drank a bottle of wine to deal with what you saw today versus doing talking to your doctor, talking to coworkers, talking to your trusted people? What is the difference tomorrow morning?
so in your brain, people call it mindful decontamination. It's physically removing those icky, gross feelings or thoughts or images. We see when we go to the scene, when we take photographs of the scene, when we rewrite the scene for reports for our doctors, that means we're implanting that situation 3 times into our memories. So when I take that image or that memory out of my brain and either put it in my journal or I tell it to somebody else, that's decontaminating my mind. And it helps me to resolve that information to go away. Like I'm no longer replaying it in my mind. And
You
that
know
really
the
helps.
and I know you weren't there the day that, and I started in the AA rooms, but you weren't there that day, but you were the equivalent, and I'm glad you told your story, because if I had just gone into that room and someone had said, "Hey, Jeff, what's wrong with you?" or "What's your deal?" I wouldn't have said a word. But when I heard other stories and
Mhm.
people opened up and told me theirs, and I remember the first time saying, What, really? You too?" Because I thought I was the only one. And it was like I felt safe. I felt so, thank God someone told their story. They didn't give me they didn't give me the answer. They didn't give me the
No.
magic pill, but they gave me, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And that was critical for me.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like I think if I would have heard that, if I would have heard me 3 years ago saying this, I don't know if it would have made as much sense. And I'm still trying to work out how to make people who are feeling so alone and nervous about sharing their story feel more comfortable. And I think the only way I know how to do that is say, like, me too. I did that too.
Well,
Um,
it's got to be in your world, especially, is get tough. You got to be strong. You're going to see some nasty stuff, so you better get a backbone and tough it out. I would think, because for me, the only thing I can equate, because of my is football. But I was told
yeah,
my whole life, you never tell a coach I'm struggling, because he'll bench you.
yeah,
So you tough it out. You never say that this guy's beating me, and that's admitting failure. You sure as heck don't let your opponent know you're tired, or you're hurt, or
for
whatever.
sure.
That weakness. So it was beat into me. Walk it off, tough it out, shut
Yeah.
up, and try harder.
Mhm.
And now with recovery, it's the complete when I finally said, "Hey, you know what? I could use a little help here." That first time, which just stunk. That
And
was
everybody comes running though, right? Like
Yeah.
they come out of the woodwork. And that was the great thing about my husband then. Like now I certainly don't share with him the specifics of the case, but I can say like, "Oof, I had a rough one today." And he can come and sit with me. And he just, like that empowers him too. I think a lot of us who are very powerful or creative or, you know, are very smart, whatever, we sometimes remove the power from our relationships by never letting the other person help us. And I think it's really brought my husband and I closer because I'm showing my vulnerability now and he in turn is taking that and holding me up. And that doesn't make me feel powerless. It makes me feel like I'm in a trusted relationship and I feel like I can lean on him. It doesn't make me feel less powerful, I guess,
So
was
what
my
was your
huge fear. It was like
Yeah.
everybody's going to look at me like a big wiener.
No, you know what? There's something, there's a strength in opening that up,
Yeah.
because I don't know, maybe I'm thinking there are some people that would look at you as being weak, but I know that I'm one saying, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." And the fact that you're even willing to say that, I don't have the guts to do it. And it gave me, okay, you know what? Is anyone else struggling? Okay, just a little. I'm not gonna. Now I'm a friggin', let the waterfall run. I'll dump it on anyone, which now I kind of wish I could turn it off a little bit, but that's good because it's getting it out of it. And that's we talked about this earlier about when you wrote it down,
Yeah.
putting it on paper. And I never, journals, diaries. That's not for me. Talking about it, you don't talk about admit your fears. And if I don't get it out, it just sits in here like a pressure cooker and
Yeah.
blows. Um, there was If I had the money, I would buy one of those thermal heat guns, because if you shine, where they can track people that are hiding in the woods or whatever. But if you shine it on someone, you see all the red, the energy inside them. If they start talking, that gun will show red coming out of their mouth,
That's
which
interesting.
is heat, which is energy, which so just talking,
Yeah.
I'm releasing pressure out of my body. And
Yeah.
that image is so important for me to realize because I don't have to run a marathon to get this crap out of my,
Yeah.
so I don't have to sweat it out. I got to just talk. And the other beauty, and people have heard me say this, but when I'm talking to you about my deal, and I'm comfortable talking to you, two people are hearing it, and I'm
Mhm.
one of them. And when you ask me a question and I start to answer, I'm dying to hear what I'm going to say because I don't see it in here, Kat.
Yeah.
It's not till I get it out. Either
Process it.
if I get it out on paper, oh my God, I can actually read this stuff. Oh, look what I just said. I can see it there. But if I talk it, I hear it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think for so long, many of us have this identity that we have for ourselves. Like it's all in our heads, right? And we want to adhere to these values, but we've never ever like actually defined them or written them down or chosen them. It may have been something that like someone chose for us, like our parents or our jobs, or we have this box that we live in. And for many of us, we just live in this box just because that's where we've always lived. And it's when you start to question those, like either the values or the identities that you've built and start to change them. And like maybe this box can be a little bit like a hexagon, or maybe I'm going to live outside the box now. Or maybe I used to describe it as like I was living under a rock for so long, and now I've climbed out and now I live on top of the rock and I use the rock. I'm not going to forget about all that shit that I did and felt and went through, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to stand on top of it so I can see even farther. And so, but I think like writing it down or telling someone else, it's a way of storytelling and understanding and processing what you want. And you can totally recreate yourself. It's not lame. It's not, I live in a really small town. Like a lot of people still hang out with their high school buddies, but that it's not a bad thing to grow and change. And you don't even have to be different to level up or adhere to a new value or, whatever. I'm still a badass forensic anthropologist. I just happen to not drink anymore.
I want to hear how, because I know you're a coach, and it's the chicken or the egg thing. Because I thought, which I did have a problem with alcohol, but
Mm,
taking alcohol away is almost, if someone wants to not drink tonight, that's actually not that hard. I can
mm,
work with we can get a plan to get through the night. The where the hard part, but where the miracle happens is addressing taking away that desire for it or that need for it. And that's not even really working on the alcohol component.
yeah.
That's going before the alcohol is even present and working there. That's where, solving the problem, the alcohol is the result. That's what I did because of the problem.
Yeah.
So if I can take away the things, and we're not going to take them away, but if I can learn to process them or understand that alcohol is not the solution, and I can see that there's a different, better solution for it,
Yeah.
that takes away my desire for that alcohol, because now I see it. No, no, no. Here's a better alternative to get me where I want to get. So how do you, as a coach, do you treat the booze first, or do you treat behind the booze?
Well, this is my magical like dream come true.
I'm
Is
taking
to
notes. Here it
I
comes,
want to
people. The
well,
winning
I mean,
lottery numbers are.
we I was raised by parents who didn't talk about their feelings. And like, many people were raised in those families. And now tides are changing, right? So it is my dream to just like catch all these new coming forensic scientists and people upstream so that they build a resilient career that they enjoy showing up to, that they don't have to numb out to. And this is true for everybody. It doesn't have to just be for people who see crime scenes or dead bodies and like process evidence. This is everybody. Like we all are learning how to feel the feelings. I know they're icky, but we can do that. And That's a super hard question because I think when you're under the weight of the booze, and you have no other tools, it's almost maybe you go one day. Like I would go one day because I was too hungover to drink every now and again. But when you're deep in that cycle, it is so hard to learn anything new. Um,
I had to do rehab because I couldn't.
really
Yeah, it was. I had to get the moment. I had to just get a break from
right
it so
away.
that I could even think to go forward. It
Yeah.
was. You're not old enough to know what Quincy was, let alone, but the old werewolf movies. The guy would beg and say, "You know what?" To the police officer, "You
Take
gotta
me
lock
away.
me up
Yeah.
because tonight I'm gonna change. It's a
Yeah.
full moon and I'm gonna change." That's how I felt about alcohol. It was
Yeah.
like, you gotta get me away from this stuff because I'll drink tonight. I'm gonna change, and you gotta lock the only chance I have is to lock me up away from this stuff.
Such an amazing image, Jeff.
Thank you. I have a lot of time on my hands. I have
And a lot of hair, apparently.
no, but that's yeah, really. I watch a lot of TV. Uh, but no, that was something. So you made a good point because I couldn't even begin to address what was behind it.
Mhm.
I had to get the alcohol
I'm just
under
thinking like,
control first.
yeah, and the cool like, I'm not, I think the alcohol experiment for me was so good because it gave me the information. Like being a scientist, I wanted to know what it was doing to my brain. I wanted to know what it was doing to my organs, like I think that baseline information was amazing. And then when I finally started to dig into the feelings, like, ooh, that's hard work and that's forever work. I'm not done with that. I'm still things come up for me it's not social settings. Like I've done the weddings, I've done the graduations, the kids birthday parties, meeting new people. I have no problem now standing up and being like, I don't drink, whatever, let's hang out. It's when I'm home by myself in the quiet, that's when the tools and tactics.
Is it because you're bored or you're listening to your head talk?
I think it's not boredom. It's yeah, it's like all my negative thoughts, my anxiety, what I should be doing. And what's interesting is I've started to explore this is, I've always been like I want to be on a diet. I want to do a workout regime. I did this challenge where I'm alcohol free. Um and it's funny, I've never really met my weight loss goals or my exercise goals. And I think that it comes from my brain just wanting to prove myself right, that I have such low self esteem that I'll never make this weight loss goal, or I'll never, do this 80-day obsession workout that I love to do. I love working out, but I never make it to 80 days. And I truly believe that I think there's something inside of me that keeps saying, like, you'll never do it. Just, give up. And when I recognize that, so this stuff I'm starting to work on over the last few months. Um, and now that I've been alcohol free for almost 2 years, um, I'm not really changing the way I eat. I've always kind of ate the same, worked out the same, and I'm losing like 10 pounds out of nowhere. And I think it's really starting to release the shoulds and the blames and the shames of, what I should be doing, what I should be eating. And this is a tangent on alcohol, but um, once you drop that alcohol, all this other stuff surfaces, and you can start to really like peel back the onion layers and start to get curious about like, well, why can't I ever stick with this one habit that I wanted? But smoking, so I was a smoker for a really long time, and not like a pack a day, but I'd have like 5 or 6 a day. That just stopped. I didn't even like purposefully stop smoking, but probably a year into my sobriety, I was just like, I don't even want this anymore.
It's interesting. I mean, maybe you solve some of the reasons without, you know, behind the scenes of why you smoked. Who knows?
It's yeah, it's that quiet.
Sticking with some of the goals, I found I had to I because I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to do this. All these things. Never stick to it. I had to back my goals down
Yeah.
to easier and attainable goals. I can get there by a bunch of little successes I won't get there trying to take one huge step. I know I'll fail that every time. I've proven it. But if I give myself little,
Mhm.
just little ones that are actually attainable, I take a lot more steps, but I'll get the distance. So
And it's
backing
better
that up.
cardio when you're taking more steps.
Yeah, and you can cut your finger while doing dishes, yeah,
Ooh.
because you're somewhat challenged, but that's okay. All right, well, look, one last question though, someone that is ready to start. I know there's a whole lot, but what are the first things to get the ball rolling that you suggest?
I think if you're not ready to be vulnerable and like go to a meeting or sign up for a challenge or, anything that creates more community and really taking that big step, the very first thing that I suggest to get vulnerable and is to write your story down. Just take a like cheap notebook from Walmart. You don't have to put your hair in pigtails and sit on a four-poster bed with a fuzzy notebook and a pen. You can literally write on the back of a receipt, but just write down what you're feeling in any moment. Take a minute between the time you pour your beer or your wine and just write it all out and get it out and feel what it feels like to say your story. And it doesn't have to be to another person. That vulnerability can be between you and the piece of paper.
I think the key on top of that for me was being honest because I would
Yep.
start off. I would write what I wanted to feel or what I
Mhm.
should be feeling, or if I would write what other people might read, and I wanted them
Yeah.
to read so to putting down actually me when I finally did that and just no cut the this is just put down the truth. That's when I was, wow, that's interesting. Didn't know that came would
Yeah.
come out of the pen.
Yeah. And who are you lying for anyway? Who do you really who what does it matter if you're
Mhm.
sad or lonely or fearful? It doesn't make you a bad person. You are worthy of love and food and shelter and compassion. And I think for so long, many of us also try to be this like changeling to like make everybody happy. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help your partner because you're not being true to yourself. It doesn't help your kids because your kids don't see reality. So then they don't know how to act because they're following you and you're being a liar to the
Yep.
world. So that honesty, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
that was a killer, but that was big for me. And then, and I'll put this all over in the chat, or in the, I'll put this in the comments and whatnot, but how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so, I'm
How do they
actually
follow you? I wanna hear it all.
So I have Instagram, I have, forensics_found for general health and wellness, and professional development, continuing education stuff on forensic science. So I want to integrate health and wellness, into, professional development. I think it should be for everyone, not just forensic scientists. But that's just generalized stuff. And for alcohol related suggestions and tips from my coaching, it's at responders_last call. I also have courses on Thinkific
On
for
what?
yeah,
Thinkific?
it's called Thinkific, yeah. So you can go on if what I was saying, if you're not comfortable joining communities or having a coach or going to an AA meeting, this is a nice way to on your own do a course. The very short videos. There's a bunch of different kinds. So I have like a really short course called the Burnout Protocol. I also have Responders Last Call, so they're videos that you get every day. Um, they're meant for responders, but I definitely coach people other than first and last responders. I also have a free ebook there. It's called the Life Kit for Death Investigators. So it gives 6 tips for folks that like me and my background, and kind of 6 tips on how to better manage work-life balance. Which secrets out, work-life balance is bullshit. You can't have it. Um, so kind of how to build a better life around not balancing that.
I grew up with a dad who was a urologist. I saw books that scarred me for life. I am I gonna now go into your ebook and see
Yeah.
forensic stuff that's gonna send me right back into
I have so many things to say, but I'm going to keep it PG.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. That's good. And then the email to get a hold of you if anyone has a question for you.
It's mentor@forensicsfound.com. Oh,
Okay.
and I've got a podcast coming out, Jeff, next month.
And your guest is?
I'm
I
actually going to be interviewing forensic practitioners and like telling their stories. So we do touch. My very first guest has been alcohol free for 30 some years. She was the chief of staff at the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. She was drinking very heavily and then found death. And it basically kind of jump started her. She went through AA, traditional
Wow.
recovery. Her story is fantastic. Like her interview is going to be really amazing. She
Well,
talks about
we'll run notices about that on the
yeah.
sites on
She
our.
talks about humility. I think that's something that like I always forget to mention to my clients, and maybe we can talk about it more later. But like I don't know, humility. I just love that topic.
That's it's the more you know that that's that commercial or that little thing. It's the truth. That's
Yeah.
what people ask me. What's the best program? It's like look at them all.
Yeah.
It's a smorgasbord and put on your plate the thing that's gonna
Yeah.
fill you up the
Yeah.
happiest.
Okay.
So it's all good. All right, well, stay on. Great, Kat. Thanks so much. You're amazing, and you're too young to remember Gabe Kaplan. This was John Travolta's starting role as Vinnie Barbarino.
What year was that?
God, I don't know. It had to be like 76, something like that, 77, 78, probably 78. That was Thursday night must-watch TV. Happy Days, Welcome Back, Cotter, Laverne and Shirley. Now I just say, go get off my lawn, as an old man that's just turning bitter with age. And it's back when I was, Anyways, thanks for making me feel so old. I appreciate it. All right, everyone. Hang on, Kat. Everyone take care and have a fantastic week, and we'll see you in 2023. Take care. See ya.